All right, everybody. Here we go. It's the original Friday Night Vibe. I'm T Cash, 89.5 FM, KPOO, the soul of San Francisco, Rap Snacks Radio, KPOO.com, across the board, online, social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, everything you can name in the book. We are there at this point. So thank you so much for tuning in, logging on, looking, listening. Let's get straight into it, everybody. You know, this topic was definitely nothing easy when it came to like deciphering the best way to present it. Nonetheless, it is definitely something we are going to do. And what we are going to do for the next few minutes is just unpack a concept that I believe I've been impacted by. And I'm hoping that most folks walking around here in the Bay Area, Northern California, and when I say Northern California, I'm not just saying that generically. I'm talking about, yes, Santa Rosa, yes, Sacramento, yes, Stockton, Central Valley. Even though I'm saying Central, like, come on now, that's Northern California. You know what I mean? So that being said, for all of us here in the Bay Area, Northern California, I'm hoping that I'm not the only one to be impacted by the topic of becoming the dad that I wish that I had. I want to start off this way. The other day, I was in my office at my day job. Yes, I have a job. I don't just rap and run and talk and, I do that, but I also have a job. And it was so interesting the way that this panned out. Let me explain this. In my office, I am surrounded probably 3/4 of the space on the outside, the perimeter, by the general public. You know what I mean? And when I say general public, I'm really just keeping it sweet and keeping it real when it comes to some of our unhoused population, homeless population. And that's okay. Like people aren't criminals because they don't have a structural place to live like people assume. The point is, that's the makeup of my office, is that when I'm in my office, I'm working, and there are people outside of my office who are working in different ways. You know what I mean? Let's put it like that. All right. So the other day I'm in my office, and the way that my office is also situated on the inside, I do have some credentials on the wall, like those you see behind me. If for people looking online, and if you're not and you're listening to 89.5 KPOO, there are a few milestones I have behind me. The main one is the completion medals that I've gained over the years, with between full marathons, half marathons, relay races, bonus medals for completing 2 events in a certain time frame. I have something equivalent to that when it comes to higher education in my office on my wall. What the hell does that have to do with being the dad that I wish that I had? Okay, this is what happened. To my right, outside of my office, 2 gentlemen, 2 brothers, you know what I mean? 2 black men chopping it up. Let me just say this, man. Sometimes they say, well, you can't judge a book by its cover, brother. I don't know, man. You shouldn't do that. And check this out, man. I'm judging the book by its cover. All right. These 2 brothers was homeless. All right. And they say you can't judge a book by its cover. Okay. This book didn't even have no damn cover. Okay. They were homeless, and that's fine. They would have told you that they were homeless. So I'm not tripping off telling you that they were homeless, because they probably would have done it themselves. And that's okay. One brother, he had this, it looked like a tablet or something, a computer, something, electronical device. I don't know what it was, but he walked up to the other one. He said, check this out, man. I couldn't hear it word for word, but you can kind of get the general idea. He came up to the other one. He said, check it out, man. Check this out. And the music started playing, right? Playing some music, and he just started spitting. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was fire or not. You feel me? Because you can't hear that intricately. You feel me? But the idea is this. These gentlemen were clearly homeless, clearly beat. You know what I mean? Like life was just beating them. And the way that they presented themselves physically, again, I'm not the one to judge, but that was an open and shut case. All right. It was some struggle going on. 2 black men, like myself, a black man, sitting there bobbing to the beat, freestyling. And I'm looking at them like, wow, they looked probably my age. I'm in my mid 40s, right? And the interesting thing happened is for me, T Cash, The Coup, Gorilla Funk, Friday Night Vibe, Ransom Records, Straight Outta Hunters Point. We all, you name it. Okay. I'm standing there listening to these gentlemen freestyling, homeless, fire. I'm looking at them to my right, and then I stare to my left, and I look up at all of these non-hip hop related accolades that are just as important as the ones you might see behind me. You can't really see it, but there's a T Cash, there's a T Cash Turf War Syndrome album cover there. But the point being, to my right was what could have become of me possibly. And to my left was what did happen to me in reality, based off of the decision that I made to become the dad that I wish that I had. And let me put this out here. Everything that you see of me that does not have anything to do with music has everything to do with becoming the father that I believed my daughter needed. Not just my son, but my daughter needed. And the one that I didn't have coming up. You get what I'm saying? So everything you see going on, this, hip hop, healing, health, all of it stemmed from wanting to be the father that I believe I needed to be, but also the father that I didn't have. And shout out to my father, because he was probably and still is one of my biggest advocates as far as the person in the background saying, hey man, do it like this. Don't do it like that. Oh, don't do that. I did that. You don't want to do that. No. Okay. But that's kind of a really long intro, but it couldn't have been any shorter, because without explaining that, you probably wouldn't have understood the premise by which I'm sharing this. All right. All right. Let's jump into it for real. So when we say the dads that we never had, it's not just about me. It's about you as well. If you are aspiring to be such, let me say this. My daughter and my son, he's right behind her, but my daughter is wading into the waters of young adulthood now. And when she was born, I was 265 pounds. High school education, 1.5 GPA, graduated from Oakland Tech, no regrets. Worked in security. I was a security guard. Hip hop, you don't stop a record to the bang, but not really coming into fruition like it did eventually. This was like mid 2000s. So this was that weird gap between, the Coup and Turf War Syndrome. Okay. And when my wife came to me and said, close your eyes and hold out your hands. And when she put that sonogram in my hand, opened up my eyes, and I saw the sonogram, man, everything came to a screeching halt. I said, oh boy, okay, this is what's happening. But here's the first thing I thought about. I thought about, what about music? What about music? And then I thought about it again over time, after reflecting week after week, after she just, described that she was pregnant, and the support that was needed of me to give her week after week. I just started thinking, what about it? What about it though? Is that the path that's going to sustain me and this child coming into the world long term? I don't know. And that led me to thinking, well, what about music specifically makes me doubt and second guess and send me on this implore, if you think about it like that, this exploration of the self that makes me think, well, hey man, what about it? Why am I conflicted now? Here is why. And this is getting to the next part of the conversation that I believe everybody can relate to, whether you rap or not. Even though this is like a hip hop platform, Northern Bay Area hip hop platform, you can relate to this whether you're a Bay Area rapper or not, Northern California rapper or not. When I thought about hip hop, I thought about being away on tours and press runs and in the studio and at KPFA, transparently, overnight. That's when the Friday Night Vibe was still just a radio show in its entirety. I was like, do I continue to do that, knowing that it might lead to my absence in my child's life at times when I need to be present in my child's life? And I pondered that over and over and over and over again until one day, you know what? I said, let me reach out to my father. And the backstory with that is that me and my father were not always on good terms. And I carried the brunt of that storm, right? Out of a lot of bitterness and resentment from my parents splitting up at a time where I needed him the most. The dad that I wished that I had wasn't there physically at the time where I needed him the most. So I reached out to my own father and I said, hey, in the spirit of reconcile and respect, I just want to know what happened when, my mother told you that I was on the way. What did you do? What did you think? How did you respond? What are some things that you could tell me? I mean, it couldn't have been all bad. And when I say it couldn't have been all bad, I mean, like when they broke up, man, this was late 80s, early 90s, man. It was just a whole lot of crack smoke in the air. There was nothing else going on but that. OK, so I'm not about to sugarcoat it. You grew up in the Bay Area, let alone California, just in general. You know what it was like in the West Coast, late 80s, early 90s. OK, crack. That was my dad. And he'll tell you that himself. So I told him, before all of that, the memories that I have of me and you coming and going were pretty solid, pretty copacetic. That had to have been birthed, no pun intended, from an idea, a thought, a plan. I'm just trying to soak up some game other than the ones that, the game that I'm getting from hip hop, which was no game at all. OK. And, the people I had around me, which was pretty sparse. So what's going on? And we had a good conversation that pretty much cemented my new goal of saying, for better or for worse, I want to be there for my child. And if it means not being a rapper anymore, guess what? I'm not about to be a rapper anymore. And that is what led me to the next phase of what essentially became the next 18 years of me slowly but surely, peaks and valleys included, becoming the dad that I wish that I had. I used to work security, like I said, and I was working at this really, really dope spot in Larkspur, California, called Larkspur Landing Office Properties, man. And it was like the best. I'm saying this out of respect. The people I used to work with will probably tell you the same thing. For a security guard, and for everybody working security, you know what I'm getting ready to say. Man, that site was the best, worst, dead-end job you can ever have. You know what I'm saying? Because there was no upward mobility. It was not an office job. It was patrol security, top flight of the world, Craig. So that's where I worked. And one day we had this like holiday party, and it was right around the time my wife had announced that she was expecting. And I told them that, and everybody was like, congratulations. Hey. And this particular day, a chief engineer of the building, his name was Randy. I don't even know if he remembers me. I definitely remember him because he said something to me that really stood out. Older white gentleman, older white brother. He seemed kind of cool. You know what I mean? He had that cool swag, Michael McDonald, you know what I mean? What's old boy from KTVU, Steve Paulson, you know what I mean? He had that type of swagger, so I listened to him. He was like Old Man Conway on This Is Compton. Remember that old CMW song? You probably don't. Anyway, okay. He said, yeah, man, congratulations. I mean, half of it is just being there. Half of it is just being there, man. And I was like, dang, yeah, I'm feeling that. That was free game that I didn't expect. You know what I mean? He said that and it stuck. He said, man, half of it is just being there. You can figure the rest out as you go along, but just don't go anywhere, man. Just be there. Half of it is just being there. The other half will come into place as fit over the years. You know what I mean? After that, bam, I figured it out. The dad that I wish that I had was just there. You know what I mean? Because by the time my parents split up and my father was out the door, that's exactly what happened. He was out the door. And the worst part about that, and I'm hoping, not out of cynicism, but I'm just hoping out of solidarity, a lot of people can relate to this. My dad said something that I think a lot of dads say when they're getting ready to depart from the family unit. He said, I'll see you in a minute, man. I'll be back. We're going to get this going. Something to that nature. He kissed me on my head early morning, got in the car with my uncle and took off. And that was it, man. My parents were no longer together like that. He said, I'm going to see you in a minute. You know, he never came back, man. My parents never got back together. I wouldn't see my dad until maybe about 6 or 7 years later. No, realistically about 4 or 5 years later. You know what I'm saying? And even that wasn't cool. And he'll tell you that himself. But the point being is being there was where the first brick in the first layer of being the dad that I wished I had was cemented by leading up to that meeting, that holiday party with the coworker, and then thinking about my own father and what he said to me that day and saying, yeah, it's about being there and being there for real at the time that I believe my kids are going to need me the most. Of course, like infancy to like 5th grade, you know what I mean? But even after that, adolescence, the teenage years, like, how do I become that? What do I do? Where do I go? Where do I even start? I started by just saying, I'm here. Excuse me, for people who might have heard me just cough or burp. I don't even know what that was. How does this show up? How does what I'm saying show up one last time in this grand event of me saying, aha, I'm off to the races. I'm getting ready to be the dad that I wish that I had. It showed up one last time. Shout out Kevy Kev. I went to a radio interview at KZSU a few months, maybe a year or two. No, maybe like a year after my daughter was born. And at this interview, we just chopped it up. It wasn't anything like through the roof, but it was a solid interview. And it wasn't even about the interview, y'all. It was really, I went and got in my car and went home after this interview. Shout out KZSU Stanford. And as I was driving, I tuned into another radio station that had this like community affairs program. I won't name the station, won't name the program. But this sister called in. And the sister called in, man, and she was crying, and she was explaining how she was a victim, right? She was a victim of sexual violence from a family member at a young age, and it happened repeatedly. And what she expressed, that I swear, man, I said, oh, okay, this is real. And I got to respond to this in the way I'm going to respond to it. She said, if only my father was around to protect me. That stood out to me tenfold. And that is what made me say, I remember being on the road that day, that night, coming back from Stanford and saying to myself, oh no, not my daughter. Oh no, that's not happening. I wish my father was here to protect me. Now, I'm kind of toggling between like the daughter-father relationship and just the general father presence. So forgive me, but it's all relative when I say that for fathers who are new fathers or just people listening to this and like, hey, I can relate. You know what I'm going to say. You can't do what you can't do if you're not there to do it. And as decent and positive and healthy as things are that might be elsewhere, it does not translate to being decent and positive and healthy if the reciprocal, if not being there on the other end as a parent to protect, isn't in play. You get what I'm saying? It's not, it doesn't make, it just can't, one just cancels the other one out. You get what I'm saying? It's like dietitians and health workers. They say, well, you know, you got to have a balanced plate, meaning you can't eat more protein and expect to get more folic acid that you should get from vegetables. You know what I mean? That's just not happening. So as much as this tour could be dope and I can be in the studio with Whoopty Whoop, you know what I mean? And so-and-so called me to get a verse. Hey man, if it's conflicting with my schedule as a father, I probably won't be there. And that is exactly what happened. That is exactly the first final like push, like that drive home and hearing what that woman said made me just take off like a rocket into I'm going to be the dad that I wish I never had, into that universe. You know what I'm saying? So When I started to develop over the years my plan to be this father that I just wish that I had, I really had to pull, like, unpack a lot of things, and it came in layers. So it wasn't like this, I'm going to be this guy who looks a certain way. You know what I mean? Like the dad that I wished I had, just didn't have a really nappy beard and a jerry curl at times, and didn't wear a dingy California raisin sweatshirt. You come up in the 80s, 90s. I'm not going to wear that. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't really that. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't that. It was more of, I just wanted to be as educated, as sober, as holistically present, as grounded, as physically healthy, as beneficially talented when it comes to the arts as I can, for the sake of my children's well-being. That is what I mean when I say the dad that I wish that I had. Because the dad that I had before he departed, he left out the door, he's still alive. But before my parents split up, man, he was a good guy, and he still is a good guy. And my mother is a good woman. We make these mistakes in life that are not necessarily our fault. Some of them are. He will tell you himself. My father was like, no, that's my fault. You know what I'm saying? Didn't nobody put the pipe in my mouth and light it. I put it in my mouth. You know what I mean? So that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I want to try to really zero in on this because this is important. When I say the dad that I wish that I had, my dad was there, 0 to birth to about 10 years old, 11 years old. But the dad that I wish that I had was supposed to be there, right? He was supposed to be there 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and he wasn't. I'm going to take this in another direction for like 1 minute, 60 seconds, and then we'll come back. I'm going to give you an example of the dad that I wish that I had, that even my own dad can say, yeah, no, you're right, son. I had an uncle. I'm from North Oakland, right? People say, man, are you from North Oakland? No, I'm from North Oakland, right? And came up 43rd Street, 43rd and Market Street. Rest in peace to my cousin Junie. This is something that I don't share too often outside of the family circle, but, I've shared it before with them, and it just stands out. The father that I wish that I had. When my parents split up, I spent a lot more time around North Oakland with my cousin Junie, because it was like, it was just, I'm Black and Filipino, and there was a void of Blackness in the house that I got filled from being on 43rd Street, because these were my father's extended families. They were my family, and they were always happy to see me. I was happy to see them. So they kind of showed up as the father that I had in this surrogate form, just as a unit. It wasn't one specific person, but there was one specific person, ironically, it kind of sounds contradictory, that really stood out to me in the dad that I wish that I had context. It was 89, 90, maybe 91 at the latest. And my uncle, not going to name, he knows who he is. My uncle, my cousin Junie. Everybody knew Junie from North Oakland, 43rd Street. Little Junie, rest his soul. Love you, man, and I miss you, man. And 89, 90, this time in my life, 11, 12, 13, Oakland, North Oakland, West Oakland, you know what I mean? Richmond, East Oakland. I remember North Oakland when 40th and West MacArthur, right there, those like nice apartments a little bit farther down, right before you hit San Pablo, little loft warehouse. Man, that used to be a project, and it used to be a big graffiti on it that said 4,000 block. Excuse me. If you ever think I'm lying, go look at the Welcome to the Ghetto video by Spice One. And he filmed some of that there. You get what I'm saying? And that was the North Oakland I came up in. And that was the North Oakland that I wish my father was around to help me navigate through. Because even though we lived on East 18th Street over by the lake, by Funktown, I spent most of my days in North Oakland because I just wanted to be connected back to what I believe was the closest thing to my father. And that's what I did. And every Saturday, my mother used to drop me off at my grandmother's house. Well, extended grandmother. She wasn't my biological grandmother like that. I believe her and my grandmother were like extended family, cousins, something like that. You're from the South, Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma. It's all relative. Trust me. Anybody living in California in the Bay Area from that region, you already know. We all look alike. We all favor each other. A lot of Smiths, a lot of Laniers, a lot of Talberts. These were Smiths. You know what I mean? And she would drop me off over there, and me and Junie would go with my uncle and his biological dad, who wasn't really doing too good. You know what I mean? Like his biological dad that he didn't really care for. Like Junie didn't really care for. He was more close to his stepdad. And I was more close to him too. You know what I mean? Still to this very day, even though I ain't seen him in a minute. We would go, our uncle would take me, Junie, and sometimes Junie's biological dad to Lake Merritt. And we would just play little games of one-on-one football. We had this little raggedy Nerf football. It looked like somebody bit a hole in it one side. And I was like, dang. And man, I remember that used to be the highlight of my day, man. And I remember one time when we were playing football, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just the air, the atmosphere, the vibe, the energy. I was like, man, my uncle is a black man. He's a loud, vigorous, strong, clear-minded black man who might have had a few beers before we went to, who he might have. And Big Junie, I'm gonna call him Big Junie. I don't want to give out too much information. My cousin Junie's dad, he was there too. And I don't know what was going on with him, you know what I mean? But he didn't have no undershirt. He had a button-up shirt on, everything looking kind of rough, but he was there too. And then, man, they was arguing about football, and I went to Tech, and when I was playing football at Oakland Tech, blah, 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 and me and Junie was just looking at each other, laughing and staring. But we continued to play, and just the vibe, the energy was there. It was a certain. Oh, you know what it was? Let me not ramble on. The way that they communicated, the two grown men, the two grown black men, communicated with each other, and the way that they just kind of hashed it out and kept playing, that was an example of real manhood that I don't believe that I got from my own dad at the time where I believed that I needed it. Hence the term, the dad that I wish that I had. So on that day, that was another example throughout the years where I just thought about it like, yeah, man, this uncle of mine wasn't my father. Yeah, man, he probably made his mistakes too. But at the time that I needed him, he was there. And that time that I needed him was a time of at the time where I had questions that I couldn't ask. I just needed to know, what do certain things look like? And I got a chance to see what frustration and expression and reconcile look like in a healthy manner, from this example of not just fatherhood, but example of manhood. It was a guide at a time where I was lost, at a time where 12, 13, 14, I'm getting some testosterone shots throughout my system, man. And I don't know how to handle this. And I didn't have anybody there consistently to tell me. Well, I didn't have any one person who I believe should have been my father to be there consistently with me to explain, at least while I'm going through it, how things go in the general sense. And that is why I named this segment becoming the dad that I wish that I had. So if you are in that process, here are some extra things. Here's some additional things that you should know. We will wrap up this segment, and I give you my word, we'll come back to it. But when we talk about becoming the dad, I'm gonna also shift into the plural, because this is about me, but it's also about us. This unit of willing men and those who identify with fatherhood, who would like to be not only the best version of themselves in the fatherhood aspect and the dad aspect that they can be, but also those who are like, you know what? I also want to just be like, part of that is becoming who I wish I had at the time. So let's kind of take one step backwards, two steps forward. Sobriety. Okay. I didn't want to be a dope fiend, y'all. I did not want to be. And when I say dope fiend, I didn't want to smoke weed. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to be anything that would be susceptible to intoxication to the degree that I was not just physically present, but I was not mentally present for my kids. So I can sit in the house all day with them. That's what my dad did. But when he got high, he wasn't in that house. He wasn't anywhere. He was in outer space on drugs. He will tell you that himself. I didn't want to be that person. And I didn't want this state of intoxication to come from anywhere. I wanted to be hyper focused, not helicopter, but hyper focused, meaning I know I'm here and my kids know I'm there too. And I'm not drunk and I'm not high. You know what I mean? I know exactly. I heard that in that living room. Don't do that. I wanted to be that parent because they knew, hey, man, I can't speak for everybody else, but my dad was there. He used to say this, he used to say that. I want to be that father. I couldn't do that if I was what we say in the Bay Area in Northern California, if I was off something, if I was off that soft, you know what I mean? If I was off that hard, I couldn't do it. If I was constantly rolling up, I couldn't do it. So I didn't do it. I stopped. Everything that I thought I was doing and tried to do and used to do, that was over with. The dad that I wish that I had, the dad that we wish that we had, that dad was also physically able-bodied. I didn't want to be a marathon runner at the time, but man, I was 265 pounds. I had to do something. So that turned into the weight loss journey and the fitness journey that led me to where I am now. Just because I noticed how drugs took a toll on my dad's body, multiple strokes, he was in the hospital with a brain tumor, you know what I mean? And a lot of it did come from being sprayed with Agent Orange as a Vietnam veteran, but a lot of it didn't, right? The combination of both took its toll on my dad. And I just told myself, I just don't want anything like that to take its toll on me. And the best thing I can do to prevent that, to be the dad that I wish that I had, and the dad that I believe that a lot of us could be, if you're listening, is to just try your best to stay away from all of that. Just try, make the effort, the initial effort. And I guarantee is a big word, right? But I guarantee you that you will get something, you will gain some benefit from that, and your children will too, even if they're adult children. So the physical aspect was not just me being there physically in that sense, but me being able to be there physically in that sense. Because again, I could be high out my mind and be sitting on the couch and I'm there, but I'm not there. I cannot be high out my mind, but be sitting on the couch. And when my kids are like, Daddy, come play with me, I can't even get up off the couch because I'm not able to do it. And I'm not saying if that's you right now, that's your fault and you're the dad that you wish you're not the dad that I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is if I have a conscious effort to be made and I'm able to change that situation, I'm going to do that. I want to do that because I want to be that dad that I wish that I had. And that was another part of it. Higher education. At the time, it wasn't even about what it became for me. And I'm just disclosing this because for people who know, a lot of people don't know, but yes, I am a UC Berkeley graduate. Okay. Yes, I am a Berkeley City College graduate. I have 2 degrees. Okay. In the beginning, I just wanted to get an associate's degree to get a better job that paid more money. Guess why? Yeah, why? What you think? Because I wanted to be there for my children in the way my father wasn't there for me. And my own father will tell you this. So this is not a diss to my dad. Listen, people, we want to make more money, not because we want to make more money. For those of you who are like, well, I don't understand. Why must you make more money? It's all about just being there for your kids. Man, check this out. You need more money because when kids start to ask for stuff that they deserve, you want to be able to say, yes, I'm going to buy this for you with the money that I have because I made a conscious decision to go out and earn more money for the sake of that situation right there. So no disrespect to those who believe that there's this other source of currency that usurps like actual like money that you can tap into, and that will buy that really dope pair of shoes for your kid that they earned. That'll go buy the clothes. That'll go buy and you're probably inferring, man, I'm talking about 13, 14, 15, 11, 12. You know what I'm saying? This other, I don't have any money, kids. You know what I'm saying? I can't get off the couch. I'm high on my mind. But now all of a sudden, I'm supposed to get off the couch, sober up, and pay for stuff with the money I don't have. And you're gonna be good with that. No, it doesn't work like that. So I'm talking about concrete, lack of better words, material items that are used as resources to support the goal of becoming that father that I wish that I had. And I know for a fact, and I don't know, but I know, you feel me, that there are others listening right now that identify with what I'm saying. Like, yo, I know all about the value in life outside of the material possessions that we have, but we also need that. You get what I'm saying? I need that there, player. And finally, to just bring it all the way home, this is with total respect to everybody involved in my journey when it comes to hip hop. There was only so much that was getting ready to come to me from hip hop that I could turn and reciprocate to the goal of, that's right, you guessed it, being the dad that I wished I had. So there was no amount of music that I could make. There was no amount of tours that I could go on. There was no amount of radio shows I could produce and host. There were no amount of features on other people's albums, no amount of videos, no amount of dope beats that I could buy, and no amount of any of it that would show up more and more effectively than just coming home after work and picking up my daughter and my son from daycare and asking them how their day was. And then if I have the money to do so, I can say, hey, you want to go out to eat? And they're like, yeah. And then after that, I can say, well, okay, well, let's pick up mommy first, or not, because a lot of us are doing this solo. I'm not, but a lot of us are. It really comes down to, at the end of the day, fatherhood is not contingent on all of these unreliable outside influences. It's contingent upon you and what you have based off of the choices that you made to be that dad that you wish you never had. So that is where I'm coming from when I'm talking about music. All right. Because as bittersweet as what I just said may be to a lot of people, and again, just like the homeless piece might say, damn, brother, why you got to be so harsh? You know what I mean? I bought Turf War Syndrome. You know what I mean? I bought Brains All Over the Sky. And I got to correct him and say street. Her brains all over the street. My bad, player. I bought all that. What you trying to say? You didn't appreciate none of that? You just do it? No, that's not what I'm trying to say. And you know that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying at the end of the day, none of that was able to feed my family and be there for my children more than the decisions that I made that were influenced by a life outside of that, a life outside of music that just, it made it impossible for me to ignore and pivot back to when it comes to music. Okay. This pivot that you see from me now is after the fact, meaning I think maybe this is the real closeout of the segment. I thought the closeout was going to be like maybe 2 minutes ago, but this is the real closeout. And I'll stop here and I give you my word, people. We will be back to discover some more ideas and concepts, and we'll touch on this topic again. But this is the real closeout. In retrospect, my daughter is wading into the waters of young adulthood, legal adult, work, college, place of her own, career, just getting her feet wet. My son is right behind her. They're not too far apart in age. I feel validated whether anyone says anything about it or not, more than ever, knowing that when my two children, for better or for worse, look back on their lives and people ask, hey, was your dad around? They will say, yeah. And when people ask them, hey, was there a time in your life when your dad bailed on you or he wasn't there? Not to sound vain, not to sound arrogant, but I believe that they will look back on that and say, no, he was there. And that is why I wanted to be the dad that I wished I never had, because I wanted my dad to do what I believe I've done. And I believe you can do. And if you've done it, I believe you've done it, is break these generational cycles of hardship with the next generation after me so they can do it in their way with the generation after them. So the way that I look back on my life and saw a void in the space of fatherhood when I needed fatherhood the most, my kids don't have that void. I don't believe that they do. I don't believe that they do. And I also believe that if you are trying to make the effort similarly, or, somewhat similarly, maybe not. If you're trying to make that effort based off of some of, if not all of the things that you heard on this segment, you will be successful in your own way when it's time for you to be evaluated by the circumstances in life that call for you to reflect and ask, was I the dad that I wish that I had? You probably can't answer that completely. You might answer it the way I answered it. I can only hope that time goes by and my children cement my answer and it becomes the answer. But just continue to do the work. And I really believe that that will be the outcome for not just you, but for me, for all of us. We just have to keep trying. We just have to keep pushing. Hey, you know what? This is it. I'm done for today for this segment. This has been the original Friday Night Vibe, hip hop, health, healing from the Northern California perspective, 89.5 FM KPOO San Francisco, the soul of San Francisco, Rap Snacks Radio. Shout out KBZ, KPOO.com. You're also looking at what I'm saying across the board when it comes to social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, everything that you can, well, maybe not everything, but you know what I mean. All right. All right, everybody. Until next time, stay strong. Later.